Hello my friends and welcome. This is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go to the southern front lines, directly to Robotyne, to be more precise between Robotyne and Novoprokopivka, where Ukraine conducted the counterattack towards the Russian positions, even though the Russian army used all of the available resources to target our troops. Our guys took some of the ground in this area. It was very hard, but we propelled forward, including taking some of the Russian defense lines. It is awesome. It is getting very hard to move nowadays on the front lines. I think Ukraine took the advantage of the bad weather in the region. It wasn't that bad in this particular area compared, for example, to Odessa or even to Kiev, but the visibility dropped and the effectiveness of the Russian surveillance drones was much less compared to the clear skies conditions. At the same time, Russia tried to use some of the drones, but not that effective because of the weather, and Ukraine has two of the attack vectors in this area. Russia also tried to advance forward from Novoprokopivka in this direction, but they were totally ambushed with the help of the Ukrainian artillery fire. Unfortunately, we also have the losses during this operation, but our guys stopped the Russian assault. Also, Russians have the assault over here, but Ukraine moves forward with its counterattack, and this is the most significant achievement for Ukrainian army in all of this area for the recent week, or maybe 2 of the weeks. And you may see all of those spots of the Russian artillery fire directly towards Ukrainian positions. However, those were not that effective, again because of the weather and because of the Ukrainian army experience. Our artillery also targeted the Russian positions already in Novoprokopivka village, because all of this part also belongs to Novoprokopivka settlement and this part as well. So in general, based on the Russian defense in this place, I would say that this operation is successful. Hopefully Ukraine keeps the pace in advancing towards Novoprokopivka. The goal is to liberate this village and after that penetrate the Russian defense lines to go to this part. Let's go to Avdiivka direction, one of the main hotspots nowadays on the front lines. It's been confirmed that the Ukrainian counterattack near to Stepova was successful. The Ukrainian army was able to push Russian forces out from this railroad and they were forced to retreat back to the previous positions. We have the clarification from the different source. So Ukraine gained some of the ground and Russian forces over here were forced to retreat behind the railroad. So awesome news coming from this place. Yesterday we got the information that Ukrainian counterattack stopped the Russian forces, and today we have the information that Russian forces are retreating back. So again, hopefully this vector will continue like that and Russian forces would go back to Krasnogorivka, at least to their previous positions. In that case, what was the reason to start the assault operations for them in Avdiivka region? Because here they are basically losing the forces without any reason and they have tremendous losses. From the British intelligence report, they lose at least 900 soldiers per day in all of the front lines, but mostly in Avdiivka. We are speaking about not just KIA, but about the wounded Russian army personnel. Those are the heaviest Russian losses since March this year. And as you see, Ukraine uses artillery systems everywhere and surveillance drone are operating far behind the front lines. You don't see the Russian artillery fire over here. It wasn't really registered, so Russia doesn't have the backup from their artillery. It's crazy. Whoever is responsible for the Russian army in Avdiivka region is not very competent. And let me show you this part again on the 3D map. Here are some of the hills and Russia took control over this hill before, and today they were pushed over here and behind the railroad. Also information, we also aware that Russia started to build the intermediate bridgehead in this area. Sorry, I probably should use the red color for that. So this is the Russian bridgehead, and they sent their reinforcements to this area, firstly collecting them in Krasnogorivka, and from this place they perform their assault missions. So they dig some of the trenches and even the underground tunnels in that place to to avoid being reached by artillery fire. So Ukraine should use every item and all of the tools to get rid of this bridgehead. Speaking about this artificially made hill, yes, it's under control by the Russian Federation, but they're unable to keep their forces on top because all of those are well seen by our air surveillance and well reached by our artillery, so they do hesitate to deploy their forces right on top of that hill. So to be more precise, Russia is controlling this part with their actual forces and this part too. This already was taken with the help of the Ukrainian counterattack, and here Russia is unable to place their forces. But this area over here near to this hill is the most robust because of the Russian new built defense line. Based on the current situation around this place, Russia is really far in cutting the supply line which goes to Orlivka from Avdiivka or to Avdiivka from Orlivka. That's how Ukraine supplies forces and goods for Avdiivka bridgehead. Let's go to the south part of Avdiivka. There are no any changes for today, but Russia recently got a little advantage in this place. It is the most vulnerable part now in Avdiivka region, but still I think that Russia might be stopped before reaching this river. Unfortunately, I expect that they do have the enough resources to get all of this area under their control. In general, it doesn't matter how many of the resources Russia has, but weather plays a great role, so I do not expect that this winter Ukraine loses Avdiivka town. Moreover, if our army would collect enough resources, I think that we have all the chances to perform the counterattack in Avdiivka, cutting the flanks for the Russian army. As it was with the Bakhmut city, then Ukraine got control over all of that territory. Now it's getting harder to advance, but in Avdiivka the advancement could be more profitable and basically more successful potentially for a Ukrainian army. Because in Bakhmut Russia had the time to build the defense lines, but here Russia is not building the robust defense. They are still on attack, they are not preparing really for defense. So the main thing is to cut them on a counterattacks. But again, it might only happen during the spring or the summer time. A video with Leopard 1A5 was published today on internet. Some of the reporters took the interview with our soldiers. So definitely it is the old German Leopard 1 tank. It is deployed, I think, also near Kupiansk together with Abrams tanks. Well, at least we got several of the footages showing the Abrams tanks, which are also deployed somewhere in this region. As you can see, it's already snowy in that place. Well, probably we have the Spanish subtitles, correct me if I'm wrong over here. No English subtitles, unfortunately, but anyways, I'm gonna publish it on my Telegram channel. Basically, our soldiers already say that they use this tank in the active combat and already targeted the enemy positions. They do not specify what kind of the positions were over there, probably infantry. I'm in a great doubt that Ukraine should use those kind of the tanks as the main assault weapon. Those tanks should be used as the support tanks, not the main fist to break the Russian defense or counteract to the Russian attacks, because basically I don't see any kind of the explosives armor on this tank, and the thickness of the forward part is just 70 millimeters. 70 millimeters is really nothing for the modern day shells. Yes, it is able to withstand the fire from the 30 millimeter cannon, but the main Russian tank T-72 will penetrate this stuff very easily. They easily penetrate 350 millimeter armor. That is how powerful the shells on the more or less modern tanks. So that is why the Leopard 2 is a much better tank compared to this one. But what we need every kind of the tank in the Ukrainian army, so I'm not complaining, but it's better to have Leopard 2 compared to Leopard 1 or other type of the very modern tank like Abrams or Challenger 2. Unfortunately, this tank has not enough armor, so again it should be used as the support tank for the infantry or as the local fire spot for defense or as artillery to fire the explosive shells with ballistic trajectory. That's the only use of this tank nowadays, unfortunately. Also, it is very big, so it's easy to target it. Overall, it's better to receive, for example, modernized Polish T92 tanks compared to this one. The video from Robotyne probably even was filmed today. The modern Russian BMP-3 was it was kaboomed, but it was running on the Ukrainian positions in this forest line. Sadly for the crew and for Russians, the armored vehicle just touched the anti-tank mine. With that huge kaboom, you probably might understand what happened to the crew. And this is Avdiivka, the fresh image. Yes, there was not really snowy on that part. And here is the Ukrainian Bradley that was targeted by the Russian drone or something like that, but instead of the big kaboom, Bradley continued its operation because of the thick armor of this vehicle plus explosives armor. So the crew is safe and this vehicle requires just minor repairs. That's it. It was able to run and fight right after the direct shot. One more Russian air defense store system was targeted by the GMLRS missile, probably from the HIMARS system, and was totally kaputted. Russia recently lost 5 of those units for the recent week and one more. They deploy many of the TORs because they're afraid that Ukraine uses the JDAMs on their positions. That's why they also lose a lot of that stuff. Kupiansk direction, the Russian artillery system G10 was targeted again by the HIMARS system. Nice collaboration from the drone army and from the Ukrainian artillery forces. This one I shared on my Telegram channel yesterday. Do you think it is the T90 Russian modern tank? Well, actually it's not. It's the Jurassic T62M tank. M means modernized, but still it's the old Russian T62 tank with extra armor taken from the T90 tank. It means that Russia is in lack of the T90 bases, so they use the armor of those tanks to put on the very old Soviet-made tanks. It also means that Russia is searching for non-star solutions because they are in lack of some of the modern-day equipment. They still have lots of those T62 tanks in their storages. They try to modernize them, but they will never run as T90 tanks. And this is the Russian T90 tank. It looks like they've took it from the scrapyard or something. They put some extra armor over here to reduce the vulnerability against the drone attacks. Also, those screens on the top, so the Mad Max style for the Russian army. Well, this tank at least is kind of capable compared to T62, so why would they waste the defense armor of T90 tank on that one? Just strange. Sometimes Russians also have more strange engineering solutions. For example, they put this drone defense on top of this armored vehicle and they put some reinforcement for the roof. But in that case, how would they turn the turret? So hopefully you can see it. So how would they turn it to the different angle? They have this room for the turret and that's it. All of those columns just prevent the turret from making the turn. Very strange. Alright, new kabooms happened in Donetsk. So far we are out of clue of what was kaboomed over there. The evidence is presented clearly. It is the ground explosion. Because of the heavy storm near to Sochi, Russia lost the connection line, the railroad. Partially it is just collapsed into the sea because of the high waves. This video was filmed from one of the trains. You may see that the part of the road is basically absent. The part of the rails is gone. But still they have the single line to provide some of the supplies and railway connection, unfortunately. Also, some sources say that the Russian Raptor boat didn't make it in the thunderstorm and drowned down to the bottom. The data was shared on the Russian social media. I would say maybe it looks like the Raptor boat, but I have some of the doubts about this one. Russia took the Ukrainian experience and started to build the drone boats. this time with a great antenna and receiver on the top. Well, I don't think that those would be effective against Ukrainian Navy because we are out of the ships, but Russia potentially might use those ships against the other armies or armies with navy. About the weather in Ukraine, well, it's gonna get even worse because one more cyclone is coming and it will cover all of the territory of Ukraine. It's coming from the west directly to the east, so all of this part will be snowy. That's why I do not expect the movements on the front lines for the next 3 or 4 days. The new snow blizzard will strike Ukraine tomorrow. The Newsweek source says that United States and Germany supply enough weaponry for Ukraine to hold, but not to go on counteroffensive or offensive operations against the Russian army because allies afraid of disintegration of the Russian Federation and the probability of losing control over the nuclear state that might be divided into several of the states who might start the war against each other. But you know, any media source just shares their own expert opinion, let's say. I don't think that United States are very interested in holding the Russia in the state it currently is with Putin in power. The decline of the Ukrainian military support is connected to other issues, mostly with political uncertainty in many of our allied countries, including Germany, by the way. However, Germany increased the military support of Ukraine recently. The Speaker of the House of the Representatives, Johnson, says that Ukraine is one of the main priorities for the United States of America, and he supports the military aid for Ukraine. He expects the new deal for the Ukrainian military support to be taken till the Christmas time. I also hope that it will be like that. Hungary again. This country will block the 12th package of the European sanctions on Russia because they think that it jeopardizes the Europeans' energy security. They basically want the European market being dependent on Russia. That's how it jeopardizes the security. So clear nonsense from Hungary again. I think that after all, Hungary has nothing to worry about because from what we see, sanctions mainly do not work. Here we have the German export to Kyrgyzstan, which increased since the last year by thousands of percent. To be more precise, 5,500% more of the goods are going to Kyrgyzstan just after the sanctions were introduced. Do you know why? Because all of that goes to Russia afterwards. There are the third countries like Kyrgyzstan, I believe Kazakhstan and China, which resell everything to Russia. And our allies are happy to supply everything to those third countries, and there are no any levers to control it or to shut this export down for Russia. Unfortunately, you may see this strange reality nowadays. Germany started to block all of the Polish trucks and vehicles on their exit and entrance to Germany. Basically, they're checking everything inside of those vehicles. This video was filmed today by one of the Ukrainian drivers who filmed everything on the border with Germany. The most of those trucks are with Polish number plates. It is interesting why Germany conducts those checks for the Polish trucks. Also today there was the official proposal of the Polish transport minister to the Ukrainian one to agree with the demands of protesters, but in that case we are killing our own market. The Polish protesters say that they will continue to block the Ukrainian border for the unknown period of time, but at least till February next year. The bad thing that they're also blocking the humanitarian supply for Ukraine. Officially, they deny the accusations that they are blocking the humanitarian aid, but at the same time they're adding that if there is the talk about it, they may block the humanitarian aid also. The Ukrainian MP Mariana Bezugla may face some of the accusations from her own party in the parliament. Her colleagues say that they're tired of her speeches. Just yesterday she blamed Valery Zaluzhny for incompetence and not presenting the plans for the next year Ukrainian defense for the MPs. I think that all of the Ukrainian politicians should put their tongue in their ass and not say anything to our military command. Our military command should do their job and politicians should blah 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 in their government buildings. That's it. Yes, I do hate our politicians, most of them, as many of Ukrainian people, majority of our people. The Ukrainian parliament is the place for the cringe, corruption and scandals. And as you see, many of the MPs try to be famous by putting the normal people down with their rhetorics. But hopefully the members of parliament would get rid of those cringe politicians soon, at least those kind of. Elon Musk visits Israel today. He met with Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, also so-called Bibi. Before, Elon Musk supported some of the people on Twitter who says that the Jews are against the white people or something like that. After that, he lost many of the sponsors on the Twitter platform. They visited the cities that were attacked by Hamas, and after all, Elon Musk agreed that Hamas should not exist, that Israel should get rid of this organization, but invest in the Gaza Strip itself to make it the better place to live. Well, probably Elon Musk wants to get sponsors back to Twitter and to his projects. Turkey has modernized the Su25 attack airplane for Azerbaijani Air Force. They put new aiming equipment and they also designed the new gliding bombs similar to JDAMs or the Russian gliding bombs. This thing is way more precise right now. I wish we would have those in Ukrainian army. Obviously, A-10 is better, but still those birds are very capable. I wonder what is that, maybe some extra air brakes. Those are for sure not installed on the standard version of Su25, which are flying in Ukraine. So they drop the JDAMs or their gliding Turkish-made bombs very precisely. Really like how the Su25 looks. Very capable airplane. My friends, don't forget to press the like to this video, you help me a lot with that. Also, if you want to support my channel, there will be some of the links in the video description just below. You may support me on Patreon or just on the sponsorship of this YouTube channel. Guys, thank you so much for your awesome support. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.